Bordeaux is France's biggest wine region. It's 4 times bigger than Burgundy. It produces over 66 million cases a year. To put that into perspective, all of Australia produces 84 million for the entire country. It has over 12,000 different wine producers. It has more than 50 co-ops. It has under vine 128,000 hectares of vines, and it makes it, with 57 appellations in the whole entire region, it makes it France's biggest Appalachian origin controllee. Bordeaux has quite a grand history, really starting in 48 AD when the Romans settled over in Saint-Emilion. They had an encampment there, and they were really the first people that brought the vine to the entire region. One of the major influences in any wine producing region is really the climate. The climate here, you can see behind me, we're kind of at the mouth of the River Gironde. Another 4 or 5 kilometers up there, we actually go out into the Atlantic Ocean. So the maritime climate that Bordeaux region has plays a major role on the style of wines created. If we were to go to somewhere like Burgundy or perhaps Alsace, we would very much be dealing with a continental climate, very much inland and away from that cooling effect of the oceans. A continental climate will give you very extremes in seasons, so very cold winters and very warm summers. Over here by the sea, we get a very tempering effect because of the ocean. The type of soils that we find in the Bordeaux region really do play quite a significant role in the style of wines that we find made there. If we look over in the Medoc region, on what we call the left bank, what we find is huge gravel banks right along the side of the Gironde estuary. Now these gravel banks were over time dropped due to glacial erosion and the freeze-thaw process of these glaciers. They were dropping these huge, almost pudding stone sized rocks, very much like a shingle beach or a gravel beach. Significantly, what they did is 4 large mounds were dropped. We call these croupes, and these 4 croupes eventually became the 4 appellations that we all know as north to south, Saint-Estèphe, down to Pauillac, down to Saint-Julien, and down to Margaux. In the 16th century, all of the Medoc, which was really kind of swampy, quite an unpleasant place to live, no vines here. In the 16th century, using very clever Dutch engineering ingenuity, they came and built a lot of drainage channels and really sort of drained this entire region. We can see those drainage channels nowadays as they form pretty much the boundaries between a lot of the major communes. They're drainage channels that we call jailles. We're standing right on the edge of the River Gironde here, and between the surface of the water and the top of the land, we've probably got a 3 or 4 meter drop. This is quite important when it comes to the winter, because further inland, when we have those gravel mounds that the vineyards are situated on, when it gets very, very cold, the frosty air from those vineyards will literally roll down the vineyards, roll down the hills, roll down here and settle on the surface of the water. And then the natural tidal movement of the water will literally suck and draw all that frosty air out of the vineyard and stop any frost damage during the winter. And then over on what we call the right bank, around the areas of Libourne, Saint-Emilion, Pomerol, we find a whole mixture of different soils. Maybe up in Saint-Emilion we'll find a lot of limestone and sand and gravel, Pomerol a bit more clay and ironstone, and then over south of Bordeaux city in the Grave area, a mixture of sand and gravels. So really this does have a significant role to play in the types of grapes planted there. Up in the Medoc we find Cabernet Sauvignon, and throughout the rest of Bordeaux we find a lot of the reds made by Merlot. So Merlot is the most highly planted grape variety in the whole Bordeaux region. Something else that makes this region so successful at producing top quality grapes is what you want to do is really to create refined and elegant grapes. You want to create a lot of complexity in the grapes that eventually leads on to the wine. Ideally what you want is a long, gentle, temperate kind of growing season that culminates really in this region with a warm, hot, bright September, which for Cabernet Sauvignon, especially over in the Medoc, means that at the last moment, just as it's ready to be picked and just ready to be ripened, it has that last couple of weeks, a real boost of sunshine that really ripens those grapes and takes them to the next level of complexity. In the 1870s till the 1890s, all of France and most of Europe was absolutely devastated by this small vine louse called Phylloxera vastatrix. So it was a small bug that attaches itself to the root nodules on vines and ultimately kills the vine. So people can sometimes accuse Bordeaux of being a little bit old-fashioned. So there's nothing really further from the truth. A lot of the latest innovations in winemaking and vineyard management are coming out of Bordeaux, down to rootstock research, down to pest control, winemaking techniques, winemaking equipment, are all ideas that are coming out of Bordeaux at the moment. In the 70s, there was quite a lot of wine scandals. There was quite a lot of scandals regarding the making of wine in this region, and also the oil crisis. So the world was in a global economic downturn. So a lot of major wineries and wine producing countries all over the world are requesting a lot of the consultants that come out of Bordeaux to show them how to make better wines. People like Stéphane de Renancourt, Michel Rolland, Denis Debordieu, they're going out to these countries and showing them how to improve the winemaking skills. Since the late 80s and throughout the 90s, there's been a huge amount of reinvestment in the chateaux in Bordeaux. There's been a lot of very quality conscious corporations and bodies that have invested in Bordeaux and are really putting the quality back into the wines. And when it comes to fine wine, there's really no other region in the world that can claim to produce the volumes of top quality wine as some of the best Bordeaux chateaux do. And this has really made Bordeaux a very significant player in the fine wine market, and a very significant player almost using wine as a commodity. The top-end Bordeaux wines are practically traded now like stocks and shares. The economics behind Bordeaux and the investment potential in the top quality Bordeaux at the moment is limitless. And from 2000 onwards, a great vintage, a collector's vintage, as it's the Millennium vintage. 2000 onwards, there's had a whole string of great vintages. So 2003, a very hot, very warm vintage. 2005, making excellent, well-balanced, really kind of superb quality classic Bordeaux. Then recently, 2009, and probably the best vintage for a long time, the 2010 vintage. And with emerging markets like the Chinese getting very, very excited about this kind of vintage, the prices of Bordeaux have really started to soar as of late.